I wish that I had a better reason for going after this project than I wanted to. Like, I normally try to like preface everything like, oh, I had this idea to film this thing, or oh, I wanted to get faster at drone racing, or oh, I wanted to understand what FPV is, but I don't have any altruistic goal for this. I just was like, I want to build this drone. Jordan Temkin, aka Jet FPV, has the company Project 399, and he has a bunch of products, most of which are called the SuperG, including the practice rig, which is the 7-inch 12S drone that I just featured a couple weeks ago. Now, one of the projects that he's had sitting around for a while is a 10-inch version of that same SuperG. It uses these massive arms to swing 10-inch blades on a crazy-looking beast of a machine. I've only seen one of them in the wild, and it was one that he had. I asked him the other day for some extra battery straps, and he was like, oh, by the way, I've sent you some goodies. I unboxed that package, and in it was the beautiful carbon of a 10-inch SuperG, and that is the beginning of our story. I just got a package from Jet. I asked him to send me a bunch of straps, because Project 399 has the best straps. He said it's a comical quantity. Boom. Some giant arms. This is for 10-inch drones, so it's a 10-inch version of the Project 399 SuperG. Oh, there's a giant top plate. It's so fat. Like, look at the size of these arms. I am so excited to build this. Dude, those are motor screws. They're so long. They're huge. Thank you, Jet. Now in possession of the frame, I immediately went onto Get FPV, purchased the remainder of the equipment that I would need to finish the build, disassembled that old 12S drone because I wanted to steal its ESCs, and on a bleak Sunday morning started putting the bird together. Obviously, the first start with any new build is to put the frame together. And I've done a lot of different videos on the Project 399 SuperG, and this is pretty much the same, except that each arm has 3 screws that hold it to the body of the frame, and we need to do 2 with the nuts, and then 1 actually goes into a standoff. Now, because I'm using the air unit, I only use 3 of the standoffs because it fits in the 399 SuperG. So now it's time to put on our 3115 Brother Hobby T5 motors. These are the best motors to be swinging these giant 10-inch props, and I combined them with the APD 120 amp ESCs that I stole from that 12S build. These Pro Shot 1000 ESCs are like the just ultimate ESCs. I cannot describe how well they fly and how well they handle different current inputs and output, and they're just amazing. You've got to try flying them to understand how good they are. And so I tinned them up, hooked the wires on directly to them, and then just did for all 4 motors the same process. Once I had all of the ESCs in place, wired up to the motors, it was then time to hook in the power distribution board. Now, for all of the expensive electronics that I have on this board, this is like a $2 power distribution board. It has a 5-volt and a 12-volt regulator, but they don't do very well on 12S, so I actually don't use them for that. It's just a big chunk of copper that has some different leads. I used an XT90 for this drone. My thick batteries, Pyrodrone 3300 milliamp 6-cell batteries are running XT90s. You could probably get away with an XT60 for this build, so I set it up with the XT90 just because it suits the batteries that I already have set up. I didn't sweat too much the gauge of wire that I used for the ESC to power distribution board connection. It's probably a little bit thinner of a gauge than it should be, but it is what it is. I got this Maytech 722 HD flight controller. I've seen a couple people suggest it as being a good octocopter alternative, especially because it has a step down voltage for the DJI Air unit. And after putting these bobbins in and testing out the wiring for the plug, it seems to be a great fit. I love that the top surface is completely flat. All of the pads are on one side, so you can easily reach where you need to wire in each of the ESCs, the receiver if you're running a separate receiver from the DJI Air unit, and I just tinned each of the pads that I knew I was going to use, and it was really straightforward. Just hook the ground and 5-volt from each of the ESCs into the flight controller. The APD ESCs, of course, require a grounding voltage, and you just wire the VBAT from the battery circuit on the power distribution board straight into the flight controller, and now it's going to control all of the motors. It's going to take that voltage, step it down to like 9 volts. It's going to run that power into the DJI FPV air unit, and you're going to be able to have one plug and one setting change on the flight controller in beta flight to be able to have your control, video, and DJI UARTs all set up just in one fell swoop. So I've actually been really impressed with this F7 Maytech board, and I'm not going to say I recommend it yet because I haven't had a chance to play with it enough, but it was a really easy build. It's really only just the solder joints for the motors, the power distribution board, and then the 2 for the flight controller, and then you're ready to go. I mounted the air unit with VHB, twisted up the wires, and now it's time to put the top plate on, and shabam, a fully built drone. Not really that much of an effort to put it all together, but I'm really pleased with how it looks, how it turned out. I'm confident that it's going to be an absolute monstrosity when we get it out in the field. It just looks and feels so good. So now that we got it all put together, built up, let's take it outside for its first test flight. Right. Time for a maiden flight of this monstrosity. Stay. I'm gonna get some DVR because I don't have that in my goggles right now, but that thing is locked already. No tuning yet. What? It's literally insane. What? Like, so there's a little bit of bobbles like in the pitch axis, like it kind of like boop, 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 which is just going to be solved by tuning up the PA a little bit and probably upping the eye a bit. But like putting my hands on all of these, cold as a cucumber, like everything's comfortable, battery's pretty comfortable, like, and I was letting it eat pretty good, and yeah, it held on like a champ. That is crazy. Oh, it's just such a good looking little drone too. Not little, but I mean, oh my gosh. Chet might be onto something with this. That was fun as heck to fly. I want to get to somewhere where I can open it up a little bit more, maybe do a little bit more of a tune. It sounds so good. Like it was cutting around. Oh my gosh. Yes. Alright, this is the spot for today. Been here before, flown here before. It was a long time ago, but excited about it. Water and bridge gap over there. Maybe we'll go for that. Big old building, parking lot. It's a good spot. Let's see if we can break some stuff. Alright, so here's the setup. We've got a 5-amp battery down here, which is probably too big, but it's awesome, so I'm okay with that. Then we got a GoPro up front, and we got the Insta360 kind of scorpion tailed out the back with our giant props and super powerful performance. So I think this combination is going to be pretty sweet. So let's get some footage. Finished this flight, turned to the camera and recorded a whole bunch of excitement about what that flight was like, and then none of it saved. I have no idea where the footage went. It's just gone. So I don't know what that's about, but basically my reaction was, holy crap, it flies amazing. I have 2 cameras on there, a 5 amp hour 6-cell battery, and I've not done any work tuning it at all. Like at this point, I still have not even touched it, and it's kind of ripping. And even with all of that extra weight. But what's really interesting about it is that it maintains its speed really well. It has this really high, consistent, confident cruise speed. So like I feel like if I just locked in on a chase or on a long range mission or something like that, it just cruises and carries on at this incredible rate of speed. And when you're just kind of like carving through the parking lot, carving up the hill and into the street, it flies amazing. And that was my favorite part about this entire flight. So I spent a few minutes kind of pontificating about what I would use it for or how I could do different kinds of shots. I was thinking about like chasing cars or using it for live broadcast filming or I don't know what. But I just enjoyed that flight. But I was running out of light, so I wrapped it up really quick, packed up, and headed over to the next spot. Okay, for spot 2, got something a little bit different. First of all, no, it's a 360, just a GoPro, and then a 3300 milliamp battery. Gonna let this get a little bit more juicy for this flight, and then we got a slightly different spot, so we got some gaps to work with. I don't know, let's just play around and see what we can see. First crash, shoot. Found some invisible branches, unsurprisingly. It's a big bird, and it's getting pretty dark. Like, this camera's not really showing that it's dark because it's such a good low light camera, but yeah, definitely did a power loop backwards into some branches and put it down. So we're gonna go ahead and go grab that thing real quick. Also, I didn't turn on turtle mode because I figured if I crashed, I was gonna break these little fragile props. Hey, bud. Yep. I was right. 1, 2, 3. Other than that, it looks all right. Took that like a champ. I did bring extra props, but it's so dark now at this point. I don't know if it's really worth trying to set up a whole nother set, especially when I'm starting to push it like this. So that feels good. That feels like a good place to call it for the day. Super stoked with the 7-inch Project 399 SuperG. Shout out to Jordan Temkin for sending that out to me. Appreciate that a lot. A lot of fun. I can't wait to keep tinkering with this. Maybe find some nicer cameras to stick on here. Maybe this one, the Black Magic. And yeah, thanks so much for watching this episode of How Not to Fly a Drone, and stay flying.